The rain poured with a fury that matched the chaos in Nyla's heart. She stood under the flickering sign of a rundown gas station just outside the city limits, her coat soaked through, clutching a tattered duffel bag close. Her eyes scanned the parking lot like a wary animal. She didn't need kindness. She didn't want pity. All she needed was a place to disappear, a corner of the world that wasn't hunting her. A rumble of an approaching truck caught her attention. It was an old Ford, paint peeling, tires caked with mud. The driver, a man in his early 30s with messy dark hair and stubble that suggested he hadn't shaved in days, stepped out and walked inside without even glancing her way. Perfect. She waited until he returned with coffee and snacks, and as he opened the truck door, she stepped forward from the shadows. Wait. Please. Her voice barely rose above the wind. He stopped, eyes narrowing with caution. You okay? I just need a ride, she said, her voice shaking with cold. Just past town. I can pay. He looked her over. Wet, shivering, clearly afraid. But there was no makeup smudged on her face. No fake tears. Just raw fear and exhaustion. I don't take rides from strangers, he said, then paused. But I guess I'm not the one asking. She nodded, grateful but silent, and climbed into the passenger seat. The drive was quiet. The heater rattled, blowing warmth over her frozen hands. Name's Caleb, he said finally, keeping his eyes on the road. Nyla. You got somewhere you're heading, Nyla. She hesitated. Just away. He didn't press. She didn't elaborate. That was the unspoken agreement. The truck rumbled through the dark countryside, headlights slicing through the fog. An old radio played soft country tunes in the background, a faint comfort in the silence. Caleb's cabin was tucked away deep in the woods, past the last gravel road and beyond any cell signal. He hadn't intended to bring her back, but the storm worsened, and she was asleep in the passenger seat, clutching her duffel like a life raft. He couldn't just leave her out there. When she woke, the fire crackled beside her and the smell of wood smoke clung to the air. She sat upright on the couch, startled. You're safe, Caleb said from the kitchen, where he was scrambling eggs. Didn't have the heart to wake you. You were out cold. She stared at the door, at the unfamiliar walls, her breath catching. You can leave whenever, he added, voice even. But I figured you'd want food before you go. Nyla nodded slowly, unsure whether to thank him or run. Days turned to a week. She stayed. At first, she slept with a knife under the couch pillow and flinched every time he opened a drawer. But Caleb never asked questions. He gave her space. Sometimes they worked together in silence, stacking wood, clearing brush, fixing the leaky roof. Other times he'd cook and leave her a plate, never demanding her company. Slowly, the knife found its way back to her bag. One night, as they sat by the fire sipping instant coffee, Nyla finally spoke. You don't ask questions. Why? Caleb shrugged. You look like someone who's been asked too many. She studied him for a long moment. You were military. He nodded once. You've seen things too. Another nod. That night, she slept with her door open for the first time. The snow came early that year, blanketing the forest in quiet white. Nyla started cooking. She found comfort in stirring pots of soup, in the rhythm of chopping vegetables, in the way Caleb smiled with appreciation but never complimented out of obligation. He built her a room, walls, a real bed, even a shelf for her books. She hadn't read in years. Now she devoured pages like they were air. One evening, after a shared dinner of stew and cornbread, she leaned back in her chair. I wasn't running from a person, she said, her voice low. I was running from a system. Caleb looked up. My ex. He was a detective. Everyone believed him. When I tried to leave, The police told me to resolve it privately. He had power. Friends in high places. I had bruises. She lifted her sleeve to show a faint scar. He broke in last year. Said if I ever left again, he'd find me. I waited months. Changed my name. Started over. But I knew it was only a matter of time. Caleb's hands clenched around his coffee mug. You're safe here, he said. No one finds this place unless I want them to. Weeks passed. They were no longer strangers. They laughed. Played old board games. He taught her how to shoot a rifle, just in case, and she showed him how to bake bread without burning the crust. Their bond deepened not with grand gestures but with small, quiet moments. One night, a blizzard raged outside, snow piling against the windows. Caleb pulled an extra blanket over her on the couch. She stirred, eyes meeting his. You don't have to do all this, she whispered. I don't need love. I just need safety. I know, he said. That's all I meant to give. And yet, he lingered there, crouched beside her, his hand gently brushing hers. They said nothing more. But something had shifted. It happened on a Tuesday. A knock on the cabin door. Caleb froze. Nyla paled. No one knew this place. He opened the door slowly, his rifle just behind the frame. A man in a suit stood on the porch, badge hanging around his neck. Sorry to intrude. Looking for a missing woman. This cabin came up from a ranger report about tire tracks in the woods. Caleb kept his tone calm. No one like that here. The man's eyes were sharp. Mind if I take a look inside? Caleb blocked the door. I do. The agent stared him down. Sir, obstructing a federal investigation. Caleb raised the rifle just slightly. You don't have a warrant, and this is private property. The agent narrowed his gaze, then finally backed away. We'll be in touch. When the door closed, Nyla was trembling. It was him, she whispered. He must have put me on a watch list. Caleb nodded grimly. You need to disappear again. Completely. But where would I go? He walked to a locked cabinet and pulled out an old duffel. Inside were papers, licenses, IDs, his backup plans from another life. I know someone. A friend from my unit. His off-grid in Oregon. You'll be safe there. I'll take you. Her throat tightened. You'd really let me go. I'd rather you stay, he said honestly. But safety comes first. The road trip took 4 days. They moved at night, stuck to back roads, stayed in motels where no one asked questions. Nyla dyed her hair again. New clothes. New ID. She became someone else, for the last time. When they reached the forested cabin in Oregon, Caleb helped carry her bag to the porch. His friend, a grizzled man with a warm smile, greeted them. She'll be safe here, he said, clasping Caleb's hand. You did good. Nyla turned to Caleb, eyes shining. I don't know how to say thank you. You don't have to. She stepped forward, hugged him tight. You gave me safety, she whispered. But you also gave me something I didn't think I deserved. He touched her cheek gently. You always deserved both. She didn't ask him to stay. He didn't offer. Some things were too fragile to name. Months passed. Spring bloomed. Nyla woke every morning to birdsong and peace. She wrote. She cooked. She rebuilt. And then, one morning, a knock. Not frantic. Not dangerous. Just familiar. She opened the door, and there stood Caleb, holding coffee and a bag of apples. Couldn't stay away, he said with a sheepish smile. She stared, heart hammering.